invited guest. It's indeed an honor that I know Honorable Minister Rialo has recognized women's contribution in agriculture and was the first to actually initiate the program within the ministry on Women in Agriculture program. So it's a real honor to work with him in this, and I congratulate him for this work. I have huge respect for farmers, for those working every day to feed our country and the world, the farmers without whom we will not have food and nutrition security. We all know farmers have to deal with many risks, yet they choose to grow. I believe, like any other profession, there has to be investment in research, training, and availability of resources. There has to be constant awareness on new technology, research, and platforms for sharing these and good practices. And I'm very grateful that the Ministry of Agriculture has created this space showcasing these best practices. And while new technology can be very useful, it's also important to remember traditional good practices that have helped us sustain ourselves as people of this land, and I wish to honor the elders and the women who have continued with many of these practices. I have often asked elders when I go into rural areas about traditional farming. And of course, they talk about multi-cropping. We were earlier talking to the minister about the use of ash, insect repellent plants in our farms. Some of us call them voodoo plants. Mulching, whether it was rice or burying the leaves after uprooting yam, were all good practices for our soil. Now, those are being advocated once again. Biochar addition to soil is one of the best to retain moisture and soil structure. Obviously, our elders knew that from before. I've seen many villages, whether it's North or Western Division, like Navyango or Bakambuli, they grow their basic food in home gardens using many of these traditional practices that are organic. And as a child growing on a rural farm, I've seen women in my community grow a variety of crops, like dals, vegetable, as well as poultry and dairy, while men of the household used to focus on major crops like cane, dalo, and rice. However, we were just discussing earlier that even in the main cropping, 70% of labor input is that of women. The 2020 Fiji Agriculture Census recognized women's contribution to the agriculture sector, with 14% of farmers in Fiji being women. 55% of the total female farmers owned mobile phones, 40% had savings account, and 5% of total production was from agriculture households that were headed by females. Even though they were not headed by female households, they contributed extensively to labor and resources. The Ministry of Women, Children and Social Protection, along with the Ministry of Agriculture and Waterways, have been leading voices in the fight for gender equality in the agriculture sector. And in 2022, the ministries launched the Gender in Agriculture Policy, underlining the vision, closing the gender gap for agriculture in Fiji. The policy document details strategies, actions, and responsibilities that will be implemented for gender equality. According to UN Food and Agriculture Organization, in developing countries, if women worldwide had the same access as men to information, land, improved technologies, financing, and markets, they could increase their agricultural yields by up to 30% and lift more than 100 million people out of hunger. And I must commend the Ministry of Agriculture, and our current government is working towards this. By investing in women, we truly strengthen the economy for everyone. Reaching for gender equality in agriculture is an important step towards acknowledging the rights of both men and women in this sector of Fiji's economy. That's basis for food security, livelihoods, and economic growth. During the current financial year, the Ministry of Agriculture and Waterways had provided 500 women with nursery materials, seed planting, farm implements, and other farming inputs through Commercial Agriculture Development Program. These initiatives reflect the Ministry's commitment to gender-responsive budget programming. And Women in Agriculture program in the current financial year is a unique program from Ministry of Agriculture. Its commitment to SDG 5, it's a 100% gender-based program. And one of the things that was identified was the persistent structural challenge of lack of participation by youth and women, and this program is trying to change that. Also, in the current financial year, the Ministry of Agriculture will work with 1,200 women farmers from 100 women's groups and farming households with different initiatives. 100 women seed suppliers for Voivoi, Masi, floriculture, spices, herbs, and virgin coconut oil will benefit from the sale of these planting materials. And of course, the project will have social impact as well as economic and environment through the best practices. The project is anticipating achieving 10 hectares of new area planted, valued at an average of $600,000 by 100 women's groups. That's 1,200. There is plans for working with women in poultry, as well as apiculture and dairy. And the ministries work with Nethasiri Women's Group and Televi Women's Group over time with dairy and sheds. Now, training women in value addition is a key area that has potential to store and sell processed food products to niche markets. And I've personally worked with many of these areas, in particular dried herbs, flour, and I think there's huge potential right there. The ministry has also has been working with vanilla and post-harvest, prevention of post-harvest losses. But I'd like to focus a little bit on about value addition in food processing, because I think it holds key to much of food and nutrition security as well as economic returns. We have high rates of anemia among our population, especially children. 80% of our children below the age of 2 are said to be anemic according to National Nutrition Survey, and 50% of our preschool children at 5 are anemic. I was involved in developing nutrition package for malnourished children in partnership with Nandi SDMO. Nandi medical team was very surprised to see a turnaround in children's health within a couple of months. All we had added was healthy local foods into the diet, including roasted lentils as cereal and sweetened with dried fruits. They were so excited they have taken the program to Ba and a few other areas. There's a market for dried lentils and dals that we import now, but roasting this acts as cereals. Dried fruits like mangoes needs no preservatives. And in my last couple of decades, we've trialed with many of these fruits, including bananas and plantains, by just adding lemon juice and sun-drying. Some of these dried fruits not only provides us with healthy snacks, but also provides income. Just like we go to any lengths to clean and dry yangona, some of these things are much easier. We can dry a lot of our leaves and root crops. I had done some market tests with some chefs and attended some of these Australia and New Zealand food shows with our flowers. There was a higher demand for kumala and plantain flowers because they're gluten-free and much sweeter. Of course, there's a demand for tapioca flour as well. We tested some markets in Korea which wanted taro powder because they use it in protein shakes. The kora that we throw to the pigs can be made into coconut flour, adding into our own baking, pancakes and rotis, reducing our own bill, grocery bill, but also adding nutrition and an income opportunity. Moringa powder is another big opportunity. Trees grow easily. It's leguminous, nitrogen fixes, and helps improve the soil. So there are many powders that can be done, and in particularly we've been working with women on these, especially with rural women and women in maritime where transportation becomes an issue. Simple things like dried lemongrass, lemon leaf, lailaya, tamole, they all have a market value. And I'd like to share a quick story. During pandemic, we heavily were training women in food production. for food security as well as for livelihood. It was geared more for Nandi kind of area, but a lot of people were coming for trainings from everywhere. A woman who attended the training from Ba, she dried all these herbs, packed in clear bags and was selling at Ba market. She sent me pictures and I thought, who will buy it in Ba, where everybody grows their own? She put it on social media and a Fijian store has been in touch with her and started buying everything she can produce. Our diaspora have created new markets for most items, including things like udi leaves, drala leaves for kuvui. Diaspora wants it. We don't really think about some of the things we use on a daily basis for market. But one of the things I've seen with the rural women when we started opening this, especially when we go to Vanuatu and some of those other areas, they have started using everything that we use from agriculture as value addition and have been able to work on markets. And some of the lemongrass and dried products, desiccated coconut, all of these things have been coming from very rural areas from Vanuatu and Maritime, because it's easier to store as most things lose. There's a less loss in value. So I think it cannot be overstated that women have been involved in agriculture for a long time, and with the current programs from the ministry, we're very hopeful that there will be more resources, more enabling of these women to be able to do more. And with Ministry for Agriculture, we are hoping that there will be continuous opportunities and support in terms of resources. And we look forward to further collaboration within the two ministries as well as youth. I know this evening our rural women are not only showing their products, but also skills and talents. And we look forward to seeing the stunning fashion designs that are on offer today. And with this, I'd like to launch the fashion show this evening. With that, a huge binakava kalevu, and we look forward to the evening.